Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished entrepreneur, a well-respected coach, a fellow IPO from South Africa, Mr. Loic Potjes. Loic, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Loic is the managing partner of Disruptive Leap. His main focus is now executive coaching for CEOs for personal growth to enable business growth. And as I mentioned, he's a fellow member of the YPO. So Loic, let me ask you my first question, which is tell me about your own journey in brief and what was the inspiration to transition from being a CEO to becoming a coach for CEOs?
Yes, so I have a corporate expatriate CEO background, but inside large multinationals, I've always had like an entrepreneurship focus, as in I've always naturally focused on the 80-20, on the scaling, on actually working on businesses rather than for the day-to-day. And so that passion has led me to then study further, an exec MBA, then go to emerging markets to start subsidiaries for multinationals, to then scale them, to then transform them with new technologies and change business models. I then had my first midlife crisis, as I call it jokingly, at around before 40, when I thought, but there's got to be more to life than corporate work, and I became more of an entrepreneur, advising listed businesses and YPO friends' business on how to scale with new technologies and business model evolution. Then to invest into tech scale-ups, then to second midlife crisis, which was about that executive or CEO coaching. And what that brings to me is a natural evolution of three things. I've always naturally loved to mentor people, formally or informally, and I've more recently discovered the transformative power of coaching.
Amazing.
Secondly, that diversity of geographies, experience, industries. I'm currently coaching 15 CEOs across India, Latin America, Africa, Europe, and the US. And thirdly, that passion for working on the business to scale and impact positively change.
Wow. And in all the work that you have been doing with so many different coaches, and you've been a CEO yourself, what are some of the common challenges CEOs face, and how are you helping them navigate these challenges?
Yes. So essentially, the world is moving at an ever faster pace.
Correct.
And so the complexity and the diversity of challenges becomes more intense and fast-paced. And therefore, if you imagine your CEO, systematically 10, 16 hours a day on the coal face and faced with a million decisions every day. So what coaching brings is several core things. One, a perspective to work on the business. So we elevate, we take altitude above the storm where there's blue sky, and we look on the business without being disrupted by phone calls, emails. So that's a sacred space.
Right.
Two, the CEO gets to verbalize. And in verbalizing, there's power, there's clarity of thought, and you get to these aha moments. And then as an experienced CEO myself, you can get to the deeper truth. You can get to the zooming in the stuff that matters, what moves the needle in the 80-20. And in those transformative moments, when you get clarity and simplicity, then you get to work more naturally on the key things that will move your life, your business in the right direction. So ever more than before, those spaces for coaching, a little bit to the similarity of a YPO forum, are not a nice to have, but probably an absolute must have.
Very well said. Thank you. My next question is, what is the difference between coaching a startup CEO versus one from a large established company?
So a startup CEO, a young entrepreneur would need probably more structured interventions
Mhm.
to get all the core pillars and the basics right. So a bit of a more structured scaling methodology is needed to learn all the basics and so on.
Mhm.
A more experienced CEO has probably realized these experiences and skills already. And then it's more the principle of a toolbox because in a larger business at scale, life would throw different opportunities and challenges at you.
Mhm.
And in that toolbox of management, methodology, strategy, new markets, innovation, it's about being fit for purpose for each of the thousand things
Mhm.
that might face a CEO every day.
Right. Well said. What role does emotional intelligence play in your coaching methodology?
Everything.
Hmm.
If you look at the difference between advisory or consulting. So, for
Mm.
example, if you want to get to an IPO, absolutely great. You could have a kilometer-long spreadsheet, and so all of that is technical advice.
Mhm.
So, the deeper points are what of it is attractive to you? What about that legacy? What about that change? What about your family balance? What is your core talent and how does that achieve? So it's a fuller perspective that's more linked to the individual, to their core talents, to their natural purpose, and get them to flow and excel in that. It
Mm.
can include technical advisory from based on experience as an experienced CEO, but it's much more holistic and complete.
Mm.
Another example would be, let's say, time management. A CEO craves spending time with her, meaningful time with the family, and craves meaningful time to work on the business too, but is stuck with poor time management.
Mm.
Now, advisory would give you a million solutions about the best time management methodology, but there's a million podcasts and books about that. The real depth is to help the person realize that her personality traits, such as a need for control or a craving for perfectionism,
Mm.
stands and indulging those personality traits stands in the way of
Mm.
achieving meaningful business impact and family impact.
Right.
Now, when you get to dig deeper to these moments of self-awareness and transformational, then you can move to outside of emotional intelligence to now what is the best methodology for, but that becomes almost a detail,
Mm.
as in all of that is out there. The purpose is to get to those deeper truths with CEOs to get them to that transformative sustainable change, and
Right.
that can only be with emotional intelligence.
Mm. Mm. Well said. How do you help CEOs identify and focus on the 80/20? And I saw this in your notes as I was preparing my conversation with you. How do you help CEOs identify and focus on the 80/20, which are really the core opportunities and threats in their businesses?
Yes, so first it's a natural inclination that's deeply rooted in me. I've always worked on businesses. I've
Mm.
always zoomed in naturally to the absolute root cause, the essence. And beyond that, there's something about that reflective space that I was speaking about, taking altitude to
Mm.
work on the business and getting natural perspective allows you to focus on the stuff that matters.
Mm.
We also develop a roadmap towards meeting business goals, which could be 10xing the scale of your business, opening new markets, and questions such as what moves the needles for you in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the very core? What is the transformative point? What is
Mm.
that root cause? What is the one thing? So frameworks help focus on the stuff that matters so that we can have meaningful change. So it's not about being perfect at all things.
Mm.
Some CEOs maybe get stuck there in that hamster wheel,
Mm.
but it's about flowing with your core talents and when you can impact largely the things you need to do for achieving the true potential of the business.
Very, very interesting. Look, you also mentioned that you're coaching 15 CEOs across multiple countries and continents. How does your coaching approach um, handle cultural and geographical diversity of your coachees?
I think that's something that's in my DNA first.
Mm,
I'm married to I'm from Belgium, but in Belgium we speak Dutch and French, and I'm married to a Spanish-speaking, French-speaking with roots in Eastern Europe, but from Latin America. Or I've worked in numerous mature markets and emerging markets.
mm,
After university, I've spent 2 years in the deepest rural parts of Africa and other places.
mm,
And so um, that comes naturally to connect at a deeper level
mm,
with the understanding of cultural diversity. So that's the first thing. And two, across each industry, it's a second part of my kind of DNA. I know by now, after a few years of experience, what I'm probably good at and what I'm crap at. You know,
mm.
like
Yeah.
daily management is not
Mm,
my thing. That's why I love working on businesses. But on the positive
mm,
front, what I do naturally is then beyond that connection
mm,
from that cultural diversity, we get to zoom in rapidly to
mm,
the root causes of
mm,
opportunities, threats, and amongst that same humanity shared, industries, geographies, cultures, market dynamics, you have deep points of similarity
mm,
across it, and zooming into that helps then unlock and bring fresh perspective. The Indian market, the Latin American market, yeah, so there's lots of similarities across diverse emerging markets and
mm,
similarly across mature markets. And at the heart of it all, human behavior and mind and heart and quest for purpose to achieve our talents is
mm,
something we share in common
mm.
across
Yeah,
people, industries,
absolutely.
and so on.
Absolutely. And how do you support so many CEOs manage work-life balance as well?
So it's really about structure for me and clarity about what matters. So, for example, in my schedule, I bring my daughter to school every morning, so that's blocked for the next 100 years in my schedule,
Mhm,
as well as health and fitness. So gym, meaningful time, which I do with my wife, is a meaningful connection. So the what matters truly is scheduled like recurrent years in advance. In then it's about that goal setting
mm,
of structured 2 sessions of 90 minutes every month with each CEO,
mm,
about time between sessions, meaningful time to get into the zone, to
mm,
prepare, to be present, to rethink about the
mm,
previous meeting notes, challenges, to prepare the topic of the
mm,
day. And
mm.
so it's about clarity on what matters,
Yeah.
focus, and structure.
Mm,
And that brings a certain routine
mm,
then that helps. It's also in the very morning, I have my half an hour of prayer, meditation,
mm.
which then puts me in the right frame of heart, mind, and soul for the day.
Well said. Well said. And I wish all of us could be as disciplined as you are, to structure our days as well as you have done. But my next question is, Loic, is in an increasingly fast-paced and disruptive world, how has executive coaching evolved to remain relevant?
I think it's first the need for coaching that I was alluding to earlier.
Mm,
If 100 years ago I was the CEO of the post office in France or the US,
mm,
life was linear. So for
yeah,
the next 100 years, I could pretty much get away with doing more of the same, and life was beautiful.
yeah,
And so now we can be disrupted every day,
mm,
literally, um, in many different ways. So that need for that sacred space, in essence, to where
mm,
we get to work on ourselves, on the business as a CEO, that need has never been greater. And it's not getting away anytime soon because, again, the pace accelerates. So that's the first point. That need is extraordinarily more intense than it has ever been. And so a simple fact is that all the studies around coaching from various universities across the world show that there is a significant average better performance of a CEO who are coached rather than the guys who aren't coached for those reasons. That space, that verbalization, that power, that transformative power, that natural perspective and getting to work on the stuff that matters. And so, and then to now answer your question around how does coaching evolve with that, I think it's about the background of the coach that one chooses. And there's something about two extremes. You have coaches who've never been CEOs themselves. It becomes very hard to comprehend in half a second the challenges and the spaces that of the challenges that a CEO is currently facing. So that's a shortcoming that I hear a lot of CEOs talk about, that they don't find that they're looking for that experienced CEO in your coach. And secondly, it's experienced CEOs or mentors who haven't had a profound coaching methodology and experience, because that then is a framework that allows you to zoom to the deeper significance and to the transformation. So not everything is about sharing past experiences, because there are new challenges, so it's about the methodology to apprehend correctly the new challenges that life throws at us every day. And so therefore, my conclusion would be it's super important that every CEO finds the right match with the right coach that can help them grow. But I think the coaches that will be successful will straddle that experienced CEO versus coaching methodology with that background into probably innovation, new technologies, and change.
Amazing. Thank you. My next question is, how do you measure results of coaching? I've often been asked this question because, when you say that I want to have measurable objectives or measurable deliverables, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yes, it's such an important question. I've heard peers talk about, yes, coaching was nice. We had, so if you hear anyone speaking about coaching, that it was nice or interesting or informative, then they've probably missed the plot and the essence. So coaching has to be transformative and empowering.
Yeah.
And good criteria that I always use, it should lead to clarity and simplicity. So if we can just imagine some of the problems we're faced with every day as a leader, as a CEO, and sometimes it can turn away, that little bicycle in our head can turn away and spin out of control for hours. And so by again verbalizing, by getting to that sparring partner of a coach to get to the deeper stuff that really matters, we get to, aha, I now get it. I get to that simplicity and clarity. Is it for a hire or fire? Or is it about taking a new opportunity, getting a new external investment, opening a new market? So we get to that clarity and simplicity through that methodology, but then it's got to be not a nice and fluffy coach. It's got to be that experienced CEO that says, now, Loic, what about it now? If you've realized that, what are the meaningful actions you're going to take? And by when? And how do you keep yourself accountable to that? And how will I keep how can I help keeping you accountable to that? And so it's about that methodology. So each session we start by a check-in. Each session we then start with, what did we agree as meaningful actions from last time? What of it worked, didn't work? And if you didn't get to it, why and how? And I've gotten to the point where I've actually had to have a chat with the CEO to say, I don't think you're ready for coaching. because you constantly fail to take the meaningful action. So I'm afraid there's not much I can do for you. And so
Right.
that comes from more of an experienced, impatient CEO background than more of a nice and fluffy coach background. So you
Mm.
need a mix of the two to really get to the essence. And
Yeah.
so when we choose a topic for a coaching conversation,
Mm.
we immediately have to say, what is the desired outcome? If we
Mm.
spend a bit of time together unpacking that, what is the clarity we're seeking? It's to
Mm.
take the right decision. It's to have that point of view. And we drive, that generates co-accountability to drive to that. So each session needs to be measured towards, did we accomplish the goal? Was it
Mm.
transformative? Did it lead to meaningful action? And if not, coaching should be stopped.
Amazing.
It's not a space for therapy, for conversations. So informative would be going to Harvard, listening to a podcast. It would be reading a book, and all of those are informative. We choose to do something with it or not.
Mm.
Coaching's got to be transformative, and the coach needs to keep the coachee and vice versa accountable to that. There's
Absolutely.
also the last point is
Mhm.
about roadmaps. And
Mm.
roadmaps, it's about setting, okay, if you want your business to be there in 5 years, what's the plan? Do you need
Mm.
help with clarity of the strategy? But how do we then get that to, if we want to be there in 3 years, what needs to be there next month in place so that we're meaningfully on the right track? And coaching needs to take that accountability as well.
Mm. Great response. Look, I have time for two more questions. How important is peer-to-peer leadership exchange, such as a YPO forum? And we spoke about YPO forums, and I know both you and I are members of YPO forums. How important are YPO is peer-to-peer exchange for complementing one-on-one coaching?
I think it's extraordinarily important. So when I see people who have experience in YPO forum, they have been trained into vulnerability, authenticity,
Yeah.
about the understanding of a safe space, about no conflict of interest, about active listening, about getting to the deeper truth. So all of that you find that people who have an experience of forum naturally go into coaching. So now the main difference is that, and again, for our listeners who might not have that YPO context, it's like a sharing group of experienced CEOs who meet religiously once a month to mentor each other in that safe space, void of conflicts of interest. And so the difference, though, between coaching and YPO forum is that in a YPO forum, and if we're 8 of us, none of us wants to monopolize the conversation, and maybe we'll get to present one of our own core issues every 6 months, maybe.
Mm.
Whereas coaching is once or twice a month, your very own space to dig deeper. But there's a natural fit for people within the YPO community who have learned the power of self-learning or authenticity and to dig deeper. And those spaces are extraordinarily valuable. And I always say to YPO peers who ask themselves the question, if you found great value in forum, and that's only 99% of them,
Yeah.
then you've got to have an experience of coaching, of CEO coaching from an experienced peer
Mm.
um, in various life stages and so on. But because that's then 10x as powerful if done correctly, I
Mm.
think.
Mm. Amazing response. And I completely agree with you. Forums are very powerful for each one of us in our own lives. And my last question to you, Loic, and this is for you personally. Given your amazing background as a CEO and now your new avatar as a CEO coach, how have you been shaped by people in your life? And how are they influencing you as a coach today?
Um, so many points there that we could unpack. It's first, I think, my faith,
Mm.
my family, my background, and my faith has helped me clarify, has shaped me into having a positive outlook on life. So
Mm.
understanding that we are each born with a talent, which is a gift to ourselves, to the world, and we
Mm.
get to joy and fulfillment when we give that to the world. And so
Mm.
early on by faith in parishes, by scouting, by an appropriate positive thinking in schools, in everything I did. That value about uh, um, the desire to impact positives. It's the whole school of thought of positivity. Huh? So positive philosophy. Everyone has got a talent, and we
Mm,
find positive energy in doing that. Also, my wife. My wife has shaped me profoundly. She
mhm,
has a natural gift for entering into a room with complete strangers, and within 5 seconds, people will pour their heart out and the deeper stuff that they
mhm,
have never shared with anyone in their life. So, which is
mm.
an extraordinary talent. And to
Absolutely.
see the transformational impact of that talent on people makes me yearn for learning and developing myself in. But it's all of that has driven me towards being in flow with myself and a more concrete form of purpose, which is not lofty or grand ideal, but finding profound joy
Mm,
in impacting people every day in a small way or a big way, doesn't matter.
mm.
But impacting positively, those leaders can have a transformational impact on their companies, their families, society, and that's the little contribution that truly gives me joy every day.
Fantastic. And on that note, Loic, I would just want to say thank you for this absolutely incredible conversation. I just loved your words. You work on businesses, not in businesses. I think you gave us an amazing perspective of coaching. Um, you know, you've embarked on a very, very different journey from your role as an employee with large companies. Thank you for covering so many different aspects of coaching. I think my viewers and listeners will get a new perspective on what coaching is and the kind of value adds that a good, experienced coach like yourself can give to each one of us as we progress through our own challenges in at work and also in our work-life balance. Thank you for speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Ashutosh. I truly appreciate the conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.